I have to admit that the first day of my job, I fell asleep on the highway.
That took a dramatic turn.
You hadn't done a day of work yet. How did that happen?
Yeah, I was just tired. I had to wake up very early, and I did not go for training, but I had to go to my office job, basically, preparing some emails or whatever. And I just was in a Dutch queue, of course, and I fell asleep and I crashed my car behind another car.
Well, hello. Welcome to Last on the Brakes, the MotoGP podcast, coming to you from the San Marino Grand Prix. Here with myself, Matt Dunn, joining me as ever. We got Fran Wild. Say hello, Fran. Go on.
Hello.
Okay.
Apparently we're now a children's television show.
I know, exactly. But on today's show we have Wilco Zeelenberg, the Petronas Yamaha SRT team manager, also former 250cc Grand Prix winner, team manager to Jorge Lorenzo in Yamaha and Cal Crutchlow when Cal won his World Supersport title, and obviously Jorge Lorenzo won his 3 MotoGP titles. But Fran, why have we got Wilco on today's show?
Well, obviously there are a fair few interesting things about the man and his post-riding career, but it's also a couple of our recent episodes have got us thinking as well, what about that transition from rider to whatever you then go on to do afterwards? And Wilco's a particularly interesting one with the huge success that he's had and really high profile as well, going straight from riding to then working with Yamaha and then, yeah, like we said, has been at the helm during some world titles. So I think it's an interesting prospect for everyone to hear a little bit, and he's a little bit crazy in the best way, so always entertaining.
Yeah, well, he's Dutch, so obviously they all are, aren't they? No, Wilco, really, really good value for money. Well, there's some great stories. We're recording this intro after we've already done the podcast, as we always do. Possibly the nightmare commute from hell on your first day of your new job for Wilco Zeelenberg. That is a great story, so listen out for that one. But before we get going, I do want to give you the question of the day. We've not actually done this for a while because we've been a little bit rushed with these intros the last few episodes.
Yeah, I feel like it's something we just... Yeah, sorry, we forgot about that. But we do love our question of the day, so it's back.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the thing I want to ask you guys, and you can tweet us using hashtag MotoGP podcast or leave a comment in the YouTube version of this podcast down below. The question is, do ex-racers or ex-athletes feel all other jobs in their sports better than anyone else? Is that just a motorsport thing, a motorcycle racing thing, or does it still go for other sports as well? Let us know. So without further ado, I guess hand over to ourselves, chatting to the empty seat over there, which is going to be filled by Wilco Zeelenberg.
Yeah, we're going to flash forward. Well, we're going to flash back in order to take you forward to the interview. Okay.
Take 2.
Take 2.
You just continue? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's
Welcome
good.
Once again.
Welcome back, Wilco.
Thank you so much for joining us. As I was saying before, we had a bit of a small tech issue there. So we wanted to talk to you on the podcast because, like I said, so many in the paddock started their career as a rider and then moved on to different things. But you've been both incredibly successful at it and were one of the first to do it. And now you're in quite an interesting role anyway, especially as the team, Petronas obviously starts to have such huge success that we've seen. And also sort of the perspective you bring as a rider, but maybe also the challenges afterwards, and also get to know you a little bit and your career before.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
So tell us, Wilco Zeelenberg, or Zeelenberg, as you were telling us with how to pronounce your name properly. Tell us about you, the rider, rather than Wilco Zeelenberg, Jorge Lorenzo team manager, now Petronas manager. Obviously you have a Grand Prix victory to your name, so
yes.
Where'd you get your start?
Well, I think we were just actually saying that I shouldn't say it, but I started when I was 4. So that's a very long time ago. I'm now 54. So 50 years of experience, basically, in motorcycles and bikes and setups and basically developing bikes and understanding race teams, understanding riders. I had my own riding school when I was racing myself. And also that prospect is very important because you understand how to learn other riders to know their bike and how to control their bikes, because everybody needs something different. Yeah. And this is strange. In a car, it's all so easy. You turn on the steering wheel and the bike or the car goes to the right or to the left. In a bike, you need your weight balance to move the bike around the racetrack. And of course, You need to understand braking points, apex points, accelerating points, etc., like cars. But you need to use your body to move your bike around, and you need to have quite some skills to do that. So that is very interesting. But every person has his own balance and his own problems, basically, to do that. And this is very interesting. And I think this is basically what I try to understand and learn myself to be better, to be a better rider, but also to understand other riders, to create solutions to give them the feedback they need to get better around the racetrack. And it's very specific, because some riders, they don't need a lot, but they need to avoid going over the limit, for example. So you need to be also quite social and understand other riders to face their problems.
Okay, that's pretty interesting then. So it sounds like this was already something that you used a lot in your own career when you were riding, rather than, okay, I've retired now from competing and now I change and, I'll do this.
Yes, so this is correct. So of course, when I was young, and I had to teach myself as well, because I had no reference. So of course, you look to other riders, but you don't see so many when you are riding. Basically, you follow once or twice in a session. But overall, and when you get older, you understand that other riders have better skills in some areas, that you have to improve that. But as soon as you start to teach other riders, you also know that sometimes you need to explain the same thing, but in another way, to other riders, so that they understand what they are doing wrong, And so this is, I think, now a strong point to be team manager or rider coach in the past, to accept that some riders has very special skills, but leaking some skills in areas where you can help them. And not that you are a better rider or whatever, but you understand what they need to do to have a better result. And I think this is having respect for the good things, what they already know, and the bad things, what they need to learn. And I think in that sense, it's very important to be experienced in this paddock.
Yeah, in researching you for this podcast, I didn't realise that you did the Zeelenberg race week with the race week school and whatnot. And so, what's the difference between teaching someone who can barely get their knee down, and then someone who's looking for that extra little hundredth of a second through a corner? What's actually more difficult in that sense?
No, actually, there is not so much different, because you need to be able to get into the mind and get the trust of the person that understands what you mean, and that you mean the best for them to get better. So of course, with the unexperienced rider and me teaching them, of course there is already a lot of respect, because you have a lot of experience and they know. But important is that they are willing to learn, and also that they trust you to try what you explain. And if it doesn't work, sometimes you need to explain 3 or 4 times the same story, but just how they are able to handle their bikes in a different way. And of course, the level is there. Level difference is there, but the way to be able to change their mind to learn something about it, and that is actually it is the same, because they need to trust you first and understand their problem. And as soon as they face the facts that that it is an issue and it is an area where they could improve, then you reach your goal, because then they're going to work on it. And I think track by track, bike by bike, tire by tire. So there are so many circumstances that are changing. It's not just only the riding, but it's many things in racing are changing constantly.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Okay, let's rewind a little bit from there. You said you were 4, a whole half century ago, when the world was young. Why did you get a bike? What interested you in it? How did you end up on this career path?
Well, actually, my dad put me on a small motorcycle, because he was riding bikes himself. My oldest brother Ron, he did motocross. He was 9, so he was already on a bike. So we were already on a racetrack.
So you got some family culture of it from quite early.
So my fan was into bikes, and when I was 6 or 7, I was on Zandvoort on a racing day with Agostini. I have autographs with the book and pictures and this type of thing.
Was he nice to you when you met him? Do you remember?
Ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Really, because
Yes,
I
yes.
feel like I like Agostini now.
Yes.
Had good experiences with
Yes.
him since. But when I was younger, I did not have a good experience getting his autograph.
No?
He was not what I expected.
Yeah, no, actually it were wet circumstances.
Yeah,
of course,
okay.
we were in Holland, in Zandvoort. So the
as UK.
circumstances were wet. He took the time. And actually, when I started to work with Jorge in 2010, also Ago
obviously,
came over into the box, and I showed him my autograph with him and he started to cry. You know, seriously.
Nice. Lovely.
Yes.
I love that.
It was
we
very
love
nice.
those little stories.
So that was a good experience. But anyway, so it's from far back, and of course my dad, put me on that bike. But even after that, I explored myself in motocross until 16. I get a girlfriend, I get married, but always they supported me basically, and they were behind me, you know, because behind every man in this paddock basically is a woman hidden, you know, because they're at home taking care of your family, so they really take care for them and basically grow up the kids and be more separated from racing. But anyway, the family.
You have some family in the paddock now, though, don't you?
Well, it's not the same. It's not the same. So the family is the family, and of course we sometimes have struggled to say, but racing is priority number one. I said, no, family is priority number one, and racing is my passion. You know, so this is a big difference. But of course, it's. I'm not sure if you guys, feel the same. But sometimes it feels like it's matched, you know, or it goes across each other. Sometimes.
Everyone's different, aren't they? You know,
Yes.
some people. I'm sure there are plenty of people in this paddock. For them, racing's first, and they've told their families like, sorry, but you come second. But then for some people, is family first. That makes sense. So your career, 250cc veteran, rode in World Supersport. Grand Prix victory. Which year was it? I forget. In the German Grand Prix was your 250cc victory. Which year was that?
1990.
So what things are you most proud of in your career as a rider?
Well, I think the biggest achievement was, of course, that victory. But especially the way I become to that victory was, I think, important, you know, because, I started racing in 84, was my first season. So after 5 years, I had my first victory in the 250. So and in those years in Holland, so you started racing, but I had to be 18 and have a driver's license.
Oh wow!
You know, so actually you're already quite old before you actually can perform. So now these days everything is so different. So you can start racing on motorbikes very small, and everything is available. You can buy whatever you want if you have the money, of course. But in those days there was nothing. You know, you had to build your own bike basically. And I started racing with an 80cc, and it's basically was built up together with me and some mechanics, and was Huvel Casal. The engine was very good, and I was. Basically 16 when I said, when I'm 18, I want to start road racing. And I was actually quite good in motocross. I was Dutch champion in 50cc and 80cc. But that had my attention and my passion, looked like. And so one of my team managers at that point, he went to my sponsors and I said, okay, Wilco wants to race in when he become 18. It was 84. So do you agree? And we have a bike for him, and that's how I went racing in 84.
Doesn't happen like that these days, does it?
No, exactly. So it was really fun, and of course also after that period. It's completely different than now. You know, you have to get your license, you have to drive the car yourself, you have to go to European rounds, you have to travel around Europe.
Yeah, like we have now, I think the Northern Talent Cup this weekend have their second round. There's quite a few Dutch kids in there.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. They're like
yes.
completely different
that's
world.
what you see and how you actually need to be if you want to go to MotoGP in the future.
It's changed so much now, isn't it? If you don't start early, unless you're some sort of crazy Marquez Stoner kind of talent, So that's interesting then.
Looking to the past and how they learn to race now is so different than when I learned racing in Holland, which we only had street tracks and Zandvoort and Assen, so only 2 tracks. So we were very limited on track knowledge. And as soon as we come to a race in Jarama, for example, I had no idea what happened to me. You know, it was double apexes and up and down, and Holland is really flat. So
Yeah, this is the first time you've seen a hill.
exactly. So now these boys are going to the CEF and they learn here in Spain, in Spain and Italy, so many racetracks. So when they arrive in the World Series, then the experience they have is already so much wider than when I arrived.
That's amazing. So what I want to ask you, the main sort of topic of this podcast is about athletes after retirement and starting their second life and second career. Now, we thought you were a great example of that because you've been so ridiculously successful in the second part of your career. But to transition to chatting about that, I want to ask you about your decision to retire from actually racing.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because looking at your results, it's not a case of you had a horrendous injury and you thought, well, I'll call it a day now. It's sort of what actually happened then when you decided to retire?
Well, you know, your challenge as a rider is always your passion and your motivation to be the best. You know, so you want to climb, you want to grow up, and of course, as soon as you start winning, you don't want to be second. Mm-hmm. But of course, you need to be sometimes realistic, and you get a bit older, and sometimes you can win again. Because in 1999, I win a Supersport race in Monza, basically, and so there was still a good year. I was 33, and the year after was 2000 was my last season. We had a very bad year. Basically, the bike didn't go where we wanted, and I was in the back of the field, and at a certain point, you really think, who the hell should I prove that I'm capable to ride a motorcycle? You know, I did already so many things good, but I'm still in the back of the grid, you know. And this is the moment where you think and realize as well, it's time to get a change. And even at that point, I get an offer from Tenkate with Honda to ride another year in Supersport with the bike, actually at that point, who was winning. And but I also had a good offer from Yamaha to be the technical coordinator for racing in Europe, production racing, so R6, R1. And I really also had my ambitions in there to understand what was going on. And I thought, okay, I can do another year or two, but there will be a moment that I need to decide to stop racing. And I think that was also the correct moment, because I made that decision myself. I had a test on the Honda in Essen after the season, and after the test I said, sorry, I'm going to stop.
Wow.
So I could make the decision myself. I think that helped. And also afterwards, I have been racing and have my riding school, so I've always been riding bike, but the competition fact was a bit out of the body. You know, I did not have to prove that I was capable to go 2/10 faster than the guy next to me. You know, that was gone.
Yeah.
So that felt really good.
It sounds like the right moment then, when you know that it's like, I still love riding it, but I can ride it on my terms now and not have to compete with everybody else.
And I say 2/10 now, but of course it's a bit more at the moment. But anyway, you have been experienced this, and I think that for me was the right moment. And I had a new target, and I was still involved in racing. I learned a lot in those 7 years. Actually, when I was technical coordinator for Yamaha Moto Europe, and it brought me a lot again. So,
So what about that transition then? First day in the new job, you're no longer the rider. How was that?
I have to admit that the first day of my job, I fell asleep on the highway.
What?
That took a dramatic
turn. You hadn't done a day of work yet. How did that happen?
Yeah, I was just tired. I had to wake up very early, and I did not go for training, but I had to go to my office job, basically, preparing some emails or whatever. And I just was in a Dutch queue, of course, and I fell asleep, and I crashed my car behind another car. And I woke up and I said, what is this guy doing? And I put in the clutch and I looked in the mirror, nobody behind me, so I fell asleep. I just hit the car in front of me.
But not too dramatic then. So if you're in traffic, fairly slow drama.
Just the car was gone.
So how did that first day go after that?
Yeah, explain us how you're like, hi guys, I'm going to be a little bit late.
Yeah, actually like that. But they pick up the car, somebody picked me up and brought me to the office, and that was my first working day.
Right, so apart from falling asleep on the way to your job for the first time, I wanted to ask, because I think is a general consensus that athletes who have participated in the sport, especially and had success, there's a general consensus that they are the best people to fill out these sort of managerial positions, technical coordinator type positions, now rider coach positions. Did you feel fully ready, equipped to do the technical coordinator job straight away? Or was it a bit daunting? You thought, I'm in over my head here, I've got things to learn. How were you feeling at that point?
Well, I was not a completely lunatic computer-wise. I mean, so I get a laptop and I knew email and I could surf basically, on the web. But other than that, I had to learn the strategies from the Japanese, basically, because I was in contact with YMC, with Yamaha, with the Japanese, and so we needed to coordinate all the kit parts for Yamaha. But there was plenty of time to do that, because there was a big hole, basically, also to fulfill, because I knew the needs from the teams, because I was involved in that. So I also had ideas to organize track days for the new teams that will ride with Yamaha, who can win championships and start like a riding day or book the circuit for a couple of days and plan things ahead of the season, so that they are prepared better for the season, and
right.
On cost of Yamaha, it had a big influence on all the results. And so I could use my experience as a rider to prepare the teams in a better way without spending big money. So I think, it was a good mix. But I needed to learn, of course, how to come to the office every morning.
That's the thing you mainly need to improve upon, your commute.
Yeah. It sounds like then there was quite a good niche for you when you fit into that role pretty well. But how did you then go from there to the next steps and to where you are now? How did you end up leaving that role, and what was the decision?
Yeah, for me, of course, I was very close to Yamaha. So the World Supersport team with the Belgarda at that point, but also the Superbike team. So I was already close to the fire, and I was also helping those teams actually to grow up and to solve solutions on technical side, but also organization wise. And at a certain point, we had Yamaha Germany with Teukert and Kellner. And they basically changed riders, and Udo Mark was in charge. And what was his name? He replaced him, Terreltine. And basically he was the team manager, but they wanted to stop with him, and they needed another place as a team manager for the World Supersport team. So then they asked me to fulfill that role in 2007. And I did that in 2007, 8 and 9. And in 9, basically we get the title with Carl.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I have been involved as a team manager or rider coach in race teams. And this basically went very, very quick, because in 9, basically, we had to stop after having the championship in our pocket with Carl, because it was the crisis. We had the financial crisis, so there were no sales of no bikes. And the team had to stop completely, and they were searching again within Yamaha as a team manager for a position for Jorge, because they had some issues there, and they contacted me. Actually, Lynn contacted me to fulfill this role with Jorge as his team manager at that point, and we get the title directly in 10. So
2 years in a row.
It wasn't a bad year for you, really.
It was a very special year, and if I think back of it, it was like a dream.
I watched an interview where you and Jorge were chatting together, I think after you won that championship, and he said how the journalist asked, what did you think of Wilco when he first came into the team? And he said, well, of course, he's an ex-rider. He talks the language of the riders, and therefore he's perfect. Do you feel that's the case with every rider in a role like that? Or do you, because talking to you without brown nosing you too much, you're a very good communicator, right? And I can see how you would fit into this role very well. But is this for everybody, every ex-rider, or do you?
It's easy to say yes, of course, but I don't think it's always that easy, because every person has his needs and his wishes. But to have the experience as a rider and understand what is going on, because there are many moments to understand how the riders are thinking and what they want and what they need. And sometimes they are right, but also sometimes they are wrong. And I think it's important how you basically try to guide them in the right way without getting them angry, and understand that we come from their position, but they also need to adjust sometimes, you know. And I think it cannot work always, because otherwise it would be, it's not science, but you need to be also, understandable. I think that it will not always work. That's also...
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, going back to what we said earlier about the difference between looking for that last 100th of a second with like a real pro and kind of the beginners. How is it when you come in and you have someone who, Lorenzo, obviously huge name, double 250 champion, the last one to do it. Everyone expects such huge things, and now you've got to be like, actually, you need to change this. Is that a bit of a different prospect? Were you immediately just like, okay, this, and the relationship was off to a good start? Or how do you go about working with someone like that?
Yeah, it is sensitive, of course, because, we as riders, our egos are very, very big, you know, and you have to have that, because bottom line, you do more things yourself right, and you outperform yourself compared to the others. And then if somebody jumps in and say, hey, you need to do this and this, so your first reaction is, hey, I know better, you know. Yeah. But at the moment you understand that the team behind you really wants to give you a step up, you will not maybe react directly, but you listen. And it's the same with Jorge. He never agreed that I was right or Ramon was right or whatever, but he picked it up and he tried it. You know?
Is it one of those things where you're looking at the timing screens and the data and you're like, oh, you did listen?
Yeah. Well, even that you don't have to confirm to them sometimes. You know, it's just like he knows what we are telling there.
That's awesome.
But also sometimes you are talking about skills that he need to do or the riders need to do. This is really difficult to find the way to go around the racetrack fast. But it's also sometimes very nice that people around you point out really the point where you need to improve. Because as a rider, you just try to find the limit of the tires and that the bike is still turning and stopping. But where you really lose your lap time, sometimes you have no clue because you're on the limit everywhere. But if somebody can say, look, turn one, you have to brake a little bit earlier and let the brakes earlier go, it's very simple. You know, and this is some points where you can, give this information, and they will try because it's easy to do. They don't need to brake later and still enter with the same speed. No, sometimes it's to go slow is sometimes better to go faster, you know. And this is also very important in this category, especially MotoGP.
I find that I'm not sure whether many people listening know this, but you are basically one of the first rider coaches or performance analysts. I think along with maybe Alberto Puig for Pedrosa, you're one of the first to actually do that. What do you notice now? How does it feel now to be one of the first people to do it? Now even Moto3 teams have them all. What's that like?
I think it's a little bit overrated.
But you've employed loads of ex-racers and other people.
Yeah, it's true that we were the first actually, and I came as a team manager with Jorge. I did that for 4 or 5 years, but in combination as a rider coach as well already. Because the first year I started with Jorge, he asked, Wilco, can you have a look around the track? Because I can only follow 1 or 2 guys, but sometimes I have problems, and it's sometimes much easier to see the fast boys going around the racetrack, and as soon as I follow them, they stop or whatever. So it's very important to specifically go to one place at the track to see how other riders are doing compared to him, because it's difficult for him to judge. You can only see on data what you're doing yourself. But if everybody has a problem in a corner or it's just him, it's very important to know and understand for him.
Okay, so it's more of a request then for you to have a look that kind of started that.
In the beginning, it was a request from Jorge to, can you have a look? And from that moment, I have watched every practice basically around the track. And even our organization with Yamaha was very big, so they did not need me during the practice in the box, So it's it doesn't make sense to be there and to coordinate the people who are in charge. Is the crew chief and the data guy. You don't need to influence them at the moment they are practicing.
Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
I
the.
think-
What's the craziest thing you must have like seen out on track? The
craziest thing?
Yeah, because I mean, so how much do you still as team manager now for Petronas? You go out on track, you don't stay in the box.
No, I'm in the box now. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, we are
'Cause you're
a
the
young team. We
whole-
have a rider coach, which is Thor Live. I'm in connection with him, so
Yeah.
I can place him at points
So
where.
you've still kind of got remote eyes on the
Yes,
track.
yes,
Yeah.
true. So I know what the bikes has been changed. So one bike to another bike, you need to know the details from the bike, because you just cannot sit around and say, it looks good. You need to know really the differences in between the bike and pay attention that if the rider jumps on another bike, that the setting is different, and that you need to be at the point where we struggle if it's better or not. So you cannot just look around, because the differences are very, very small
Yeah.
to look at. And you need to have experienced guys that even can see and listen to that, because listening is also very important.
Yeah, the sound of everything that's going on. Can I ask you a bit cheeky one there? Why did you say that rider coach is overrated? Sort of that whole job role. What do you mean by that?
Sorry?
What do you mean by the rider coach performance analyst job being a bit overrated? What?
Yeah, well, of course, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And but on the other side, they know their plan. The riders know their plan, so they can even do without. You know what I mean? So
When
but-
it's like every single rider, you're a bit like, guys, calm down.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And but on the other side, have a couple of eyes around the racetrack. Especially we are in countries where you don't want to crash and be in the gravel for all too long without people that are still in the pit box. You always know as a rider that there is a guy out there who is looking for you. So he's there only for you, and if you have a crash, it takes 1 minute and he's there. So you have some confidence as well that when you crash, when something happens, you can rely on him that he will be there very soon. This is
There's other
maybe
aspects
strange because we are here in Italy is not a problem, but when we are in South Africa or Thailand or whatever, these boys, they go out on Friday morning, there is nobody there, only just a couple of marshals, which you don't know, which are of course trained well, but it's nice to have somebody there who know directly something happened, and I can be
Come
there
to,
in 1
to
minute.
rescue you. Yeah.
So also this gives to kick on the bike again or whatever, to help him, or to jump on the scooter, go back to the so this is also
That's interesting.
a fact that for sure makes a difference.
Brilliant.
Okay, cool. Right, I think we need to move on now to our final quickfire round. We always say, don't worry, it's not a quiz. It's all choices rather than do you know this. We usually start with a very stereotypical simple question as well, which is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Oh, well, okay.
Correct.
What about stroopwafels or frikandel? You might need to explain what frikandel is to some of the...
No, I go for the affelstrudel, you say it or not?
No,
stroopwafels.
Stroopwafels.
Ah,
Sorry, our Dutch pronunciation leaves
Both?
a lot to be desired. Okay, we
You
can
go-
have that.
Interesting.
both.
Tell us, what is the beauty of frikandel? Because I've had them and I quite like them actually.
I don't know, the frikandel is so bad that it's
That it's
actually
good.
unresistible. You need to have it. So we grow up with frikandel, and I don't know. The taste is different, and we all know you don't want to know how it is made, but still we want it.
We love that mystery meat.
Yes.
Right.
Street meat.
What's the single biggest change working from World Supersport to MotoGP?
Press attention.
Oh,
Okay.
good answer. What's one thing about growing up in the Netherlands that other Europeans don't understand?
That we don't have mountains.
I was going to say, is this going to be...
A stereotype.
We are very flat. Emotionally correct. We are so flat.
That's definitely not true.
You said it, not us.
What's your favourite bike you used in track days?
R6.
Okay.
What was your favourite race that you raced in?
Bikes?
Yeah,
Well, anything if you want to...
motocross.
Wow. At the moment or before?
No, before when you were a rider.
250.
Yeah.
Any 250.
Yeah.
Any
what-
250
Any
race.
250 two-stroke.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, all about the bike then. What's the favourite race of yours watching from the garage?
I would say Valencia 2015.
Ooh,
Okay. Oh, interesting
good choice. Which rider taught you the most in your post-racing jobs?
Can you repeat that again?
Which rider taught you the most in your post-racing jobs? So technical coordinator, team manager, etc.
Which rider? It's a difficult one.
There's a lot of choices.
Yes, a lot of choices. Probably Jorge.
Uh-huh.
But maybe also because I had to use all my skills to keep him under control.
And finally, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Has to do go and ride your bike without racing. It's boring.
Really?
So I think, from my dad probably.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
We've not had someone had to give us some advice from their own dad before. That's good. I like that. Cool. Well,
Perfect.
that was
Thank
the
you
Kenwood
so
Quickfire.
much. It was.
Thank you very much for joining us, Wilco. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And have a good weekend. Although everyone will be listening after we already know the results of that.
So, yes. Yeah, this will be
Oh, yeah?
coming out, probably maybe Monday after? A Monday.
Okay.
A Monday soon. Thanks a lot,
Thanks
Wilco.
so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. So before we go then, we usually give you a few things to search for out on the World Wide Web. Couple of interesting Dutch foods mentioned there.
Yeah, I did the script for the outro, so this time
Absolutely love it.
you guys to go look up stroopwafels and frikandel. Frikandel is spelled Frikkendel.
Wow, this is specificity
Yeah.
of the highest
So,
level.
oh God, I hope I've got the spelling right, actually, because if I have, that's going to be really embarrassing. But if you go to the Dutch GP, I had one whenever we've been there previously over the last few years. They're absolutely lovely. And ask for the special, spelt special, and it's got like mayo, curry ketchup, and spring onion. But as you heard from Wilco, just don't think about what it could be made of and just enjoy the taste and experience. Obviously, only meat eaters and whatnot out there. Trust me, it's pretty good. What about you, Fran?
Also, they're very much not a sponsor, but the world's greatest Dutch product is Chocomel.
Yes.
And I will not be
Not sponsored.
I will not be convinced otherwise. So, who have we got coming up on next week's show then? Do we know? Can we say? Can we reveal?
We do know. We can't say. Maybe the signage behind us is the Lenovo
Dun, dun, dun.
Grand Prix of
That is
San
an
Marino.
extremely niche reference for anyone to get it from.
I didn't get it.
I think.
I didn't get it.
No?
No.
Okay, never mind then.
But no, we got someone very special coming up on next week's show, coming to you on Monday very soon. Won't say who it is. You'll probably already know, though, by the time that we've actually done this. So we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, guys. And yeah, tune in for next week's show as well.